What's up, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Much appreciated. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. If you guys could subscribe to the WQAM YouTube channel, that'd also be great. Tobin and Leroy streaming live there. You can also watch the Porpoise Pod and lots of content that I got going on daily there as well. As in addition to all my ramblings that you guys check out here. I appreciate all the support. It definitely means a lot. It definitely means a lot. So yesterday, Monday the 16th, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel had their season-ending press conference, and lost in the sauce of the Buffalo loss was the fact that a report came out before the game from Adam Schefter that the Dolphins are expected to go with Tua as their starting quarterback going forward. That they are going to plan with him being their QB. That they believe he would have been cleared, possibly would have been cleared for later in the postseason. That was the big. I thought that was the biggest thing out of the report. Really, is that if the Dolphins somehow would have advanced, they may have seen Tua again in the playoffs. But that they're going to go forward with him as their QB, which I do think is an important thing for a couple of reasons. I think it's important if you are going to go that direction, and it is true. I do think it's important to publicly go out there and do it, because like even you already got these trade fodderers, these guys who market in the campaign of clicks and trying to drum up noise and interest, is like Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. He was gallivanting around on Twitter, and he was like, until the Dolphins pick up Tua's fifth-year option or extend his contract, anything they say about his status going forward is just noise. And I would say, like, listening to Chris Greer yesterday, I didn't feel like they oversold anything. I think that they decided that they said on his contract that they were going to have discussions about it, that they were going to talk it over, that they had some things. Like, I didn't think this was something that was, him playing poker or anything in regards to that. But here was the exchange on his contract yesterday.
Chris, how do you approach Tua's contract coming up with the fifth-year option and, if possible, an extension?
Just like I said, we'll have discussions and talk through it, just like we'll have discussions with Christian Wilkins, all these other guys who are coming up here. So
we'd like to discuss.
Are you open to a fifth-year option? Taking the fifth-year option too?
I think everything's on the table for us. So
there you go. And that's about it. And before, early in the press conference, he was like raving, oh, what a great job Tua did, Tua this, Tua that. Tua's our starting quarterback. It's not like they were, it was a much different tone than in other years with their starting QB. And, says they're going forward next year with Tua as their QB. I would get it if you're the Dolphins and you're apprehensive about giving the long-term deal. I think that's a fair thing. I think it's a fair thing. Unless Tua Tagovailoa is going to give the Dolphins some super discount, a la like still have it in Major League Baseball where, a prospect will give up a lot of free agency for security. This happened famously with the Marlins with Christian Yelich, where they signed him to a relatively cheap deal, but he got the security. Same thing happened with Sandy Alcantara recently, where he signed a pretty, tolerable deal for a small market team. That doesn't happen in the NFL, dude. Like, every quarterback is going to get a huge deal, pretty much. Like, every quarterback that comes up and they're expecting oodles and oodles of money, and it's usually going to be bigger than the next guy and bigger than the next guy and bigger than the next guy. Like, if you see the amount of money Russell Wilson got and you see the amount of money that Kyler Murray got and you're Tua Tagovailoa's agent, you're going to aim for higher than that. So it's a big decision between organization, and it's a big waiting game with the player. It's why it was so fascinating to see all this concussion stuff play out this year, because one of the things that's on the line is Tua basically setting himself up for life. He'll be fine. Like, he's going to make $20+ million this year. I think his fifth-year option probably will get picked up one way or another, and he'll make a lot of money that year. But for the Dolphins to want to go through a year and make sure that he can get through a year relatively healthy, I think it's a fair thing. I think it's a fair thing for both sides, but you're going to get a lot of this from the Florios or, the Michael Lombardis or the Chris Sims or the Colin Cowherds of the world. And I do think, when they say everything else is just noise, I say, no, I think everything you guys do is probably just going to be noise about that. Because what are the options that are out there? You're going to say, oh, Tom Brady's still on the table, Mike? Is he? Really? The guy who just got skunked on a playoff game, who's 100 years old, who had to throw 70 times and, it was like 5 yards a pass. Bring him in. Okay. That's a sound football decision. Okay, Lamar Jackson. Look, if it wasn't going to be Tua next year, if you told me Tua's retiring, let's just say, Tua doesn't want to play football anymore, dude, I would love Lamar Jackson on the Dolphins. I love Lamar Jackson. I love the way he carries himself. Love the fact that he's a South Florida guy. Love the fact that he's one of the most electric quarterbacks in the league. But, the health concerns with his knee, all the money that you're going to have to give him as well, basically having to change the offense around. Now, would Lamar Jackson actually having weapons be an intriguing thing? Hell yeah, it would be. But is it enough from where you are already at with your young QB to having to be there with Lamar Jackson? I don't know. I think we saw with this Dolphins team as much talent as there is, that maybe they still need to take another step, or there's still some building that needs to happen. And I get people who disagree with that, be like, well, Jacksonville just won a playoff game. The Bengals went to the Super Bowl. Totally fair. I just don't know. I don't know if I look at the growth that they had this year and all the work that they put into Tua and all the work that they put into this offense. I don't know if that's the direction I would go. I think that with all the money you're going to have to invest, with the question marks about his health, I think it's enough to say, with the situation we're in, do we go into that situation? Is it that much of an upgrade? That's, I think, what the question could be. It's not a question of, is Lamar Jackson awesome? I'm a Lamar Jackson guy. I believe he's awesome. But I also like Tua. I think Tua's a good player. Then, for the other stuff that's out, the Derek Carrs, the Garoppolos, the fascinating thing will be like who's going to be QB2 next year, if anything. That's almost a more interesting story than the Dolphins than Tua, because Tua is going to be QB1. Who's going to be QB2? Do they go the Teddy Bridgewater route? And what I mean by that is, do they go and get another experienced guy and just in case and spend a lot of money on the backup quarterback, or do they continue to let Skylar Thompson develop? I almost feel like, why waste a lot of money on a big-time backup when you should probably just let Skylar Thompson develop? Like, he's already been in the craziest of situations. I think he did okay. Definitely made some mistakes, but and left some stuff out there, but also had some good moments and has now been in the craziest of situations. I think, you kind of just roll with Skylar as your backup, as your QB2. And look, should something happen with Tua, maybe it is better to just go with the guy who has now been in the system for a couple of years. That's the thing that's going to be interesting. You're going to have everybody under Mike McDaniel's system for a couple of years, knowing things a little bit better. And I think that's cool. I think that's a great thing for them. I do. I really, really do. The other fascinating thing with him, though, I will say a couple of things did stand out, and that is the questions about his helmet. That was a big thing. And when they said it, I was like, oh yeah, not everybody has the same helmet, but like, it's not something you really think about as a fan or in media, is that people are wondering, well, can he get a safer helmet? And they're like, well, he's got one of the safest helmets. Like, I suppose he could go out there with a giant Wes Welker helmet or something like that, but they were saying that he's got like the number 2 graded helmet out of anybody. But Mike McDaniel did admit that they feel like they got to teach him to fall, and that was an interesting thing.
Our plan is kind of approach it like you do a young quarterback who's not used to sliding we have ideas and thoughts on how to help him, because that is a consistency that we've noticed as well, is that they're ground induced. So we're, like everything else, do everything in our power to help coach him, and that's a new way to attempt to coach.
There you go. He's attempting to coach. Don't fall that way. Look, we'll see if that works, if that's possible. That would be fascinating, because yes, they did all happen in the same way, with him banging his head up against the ground. They were ground induced. But I don't feel like there's going to be this cloud of mystery hanging over. Yeah, do I think Tua will get extended? I would be pleasantly surprised if he was. I think that all of that stuff fairly was on the line this season, and some stuff flared up. There was great play, but also with the cloud of mystery that hangs over head injuries, yeah, I think it's okay for the Dolphins to say, you know what, we want to see it one more year. I think that's okay. I think Tua will be okay with that. Picking up his option, I think is a fine thing too, because you might want to be in a case where you're not giving him, because at worst case, if you have to franchise him, right, you don't want to, you're almost betting on it in a spot where, you're going to have to pay a lot more money on that franchise tag than you would on his option. So I don't know, but to hear from Florio, everything that they say is noise and BS. It's like, nah, I've heard what the Dolphins, because the interesting thing with this player in particular, we've heard what the BS sounds like. It sounds like silence. When it was the Deshaun Watson thing, it was Brian Flores saying Tua's our quarterback, and it was Chris Greer hiding from microphones. That's when you knew, they're not fully invested in this guy. When they're putting their name to it, after having a prominent reporter say Tua's going to be the Dolphins guy in 2023, and then them getting out there, was saying what Mike McDaniel said after the game, which was, basically that I invested everybody, had to convince everybody that this guy's good. He praising what a leader and a player that he is. And then Chris Greer basically coming out and doubling down on that. I don't think it is just noise. I think that people look at the situation because Tua's a buzzworthy name, and they want to put something to him and say, oh, well, can't believe it. I don't think there's anything here. I really don't. I don't think there's anything here with drama or juice or anything. I think Tua's the quarterback going forward for now. I think he's the quarterback going into this year. And I think if you're a Dolphin fan, you should, just hope like hell that, yeah, he does have a healthy year, because I think we've seen it as a guy healthy. He could do some really good things with the weapons that he had. We've seen the production when he's not there to when he is there with their best players. It's an important thing to get those guys the football, and he's really good at it. But everything he says is just noise. No. Actually, your tweets, all of your tweets are just noise. That's all they are. Florio and the whole band of rats out there trying to drum up the Tua business.